General Hospital spoilers reveal that one of the most devastating developments currently unfolding at General Hospital is not a fatal diagnosis, a secret identity reveal, or even a shocking return from the dead. Instead, it's the slow, painful unraveling of a marriage that once stood as a pillar of strength in Port Charles, the implosion of the relationship between Dr. Portia Robinson and Curtis Ashford. What began as a strategic alliance to take down a common enemy has morphed into an emotional and professional catastrophe. After the complete failure of their covert plan to eliminate Drew Kane's influence, Portia finds herself not only on the brink of personal collapse but also facing professional exile and irreversible loss. The fallout has reached a point where divorce from Curtis is not just a possibility, it's inevitable. And with it comes a final, heartbreaking truth. Portia's time at General Hospital has come to an end. The woman once respected as a principled physician and role model is now poised to exit in disgrace, with a storm of scandal trailing behind her like a shadow. Portia had entered the alliance with Curtis under the belief that removing Drew Kane was necessary. At first, she thought their intentions were noble, defensive rather than malicious. Drew had become increasingly aggressive, manipulative, and unpredictable, using confidential medical records as weapons and threatening Portia with the revelation of her involvement in altering Heather Weber's test results. As Drew's power grew unchecked, Portia became desperate to protect not only her career but also her daughter and the already fragile fabric of her marriage. Curtis, who had once promised to shield her from the worst of this world, devised a plan, a surgical strike to neutralize Drew's influence by leveraging his weaknesses and exposing his own misconduct. But plans based on desperation rarely end well. Curtis, plagued by guilt and inner conflict, hesitated. And that moment of hesitation was all Drew needed to strike first. The result was catastrophic. Drew flipped the narrative and painted Portia as the villain, leaking damning information to the hospital board and leveraging media to his advantage. Portia was rapidly suspended from her duties. Investigations were opened. Committees convened. Rumors swirled in every corridor, and the walls of General Hospital, which had once sheltered her reputation, now echoed with distrust. As her credibility collapsed, so too did the fragile trust between Portia and Curtis. Rather than standing beside her, Curtis began to distance himself. He criticized her for not confessing earlier, for allowing things to escalate, for not trusting his judgment. Every conversation became an argument. Every glance between them was laced with resentment. The man who had once encouraged her bravery now blamed her for the outcome. Portia, reeling from betrayal not just from Drew but from the person she loved most, found herself utterly alone. That loneliness gave way to clarity. Curtis's hesitation hadn't just doomed their plan, it had exposed the deep chasm in their relationship. Portia realized she had been carrying the burden alone for far too long, trying to hold together a marriage built more on strategy and shared secrets than love and understanding. She drafted divorce papers, hired Rick Lansing as her attorney, and began the process of ending the relationship for good. Curtis, blindsided by the move, tried to reason with her, but it was too late. The damage had been done, and Portia had nothing left to give. Her soul was exhausted. Her reputation tarnished. Her marriage beyond saving. The divorce wasn't just a private affair, it was a public reckoning. Trina Robinson, Portia's daughter, was shattered by the news. Her once unshakable faith in her mother crumbled. And the revelation that her mother had lied and manipulated medical records further fractured their bond. Trina withdrew emotionally, retreating from her parents and struggling to process the fallout. Meanwhile, Curtis attempted damage control in the press and among hospital staff, trying to salvage his own reputation while publicly keeping his distance from Portia. But perhaps the greatest tragedy of all was Portia's fall from grace within the institution she had given everything to. General Hospital had once been her sanctuary, a place where she could serve, lead, and make a difference. Now, it was the very arena where she had been stripped of everything she stood for. The hospital board, under mounting public pressure, voted to formally suspend her medical license pending criminal investigation. Accusations of medical fraud, ethical violations, and conspiracy circled her like vultures. Former colleagues who once praised her professionalism now avoided her in hallways. Patients requested transfers. Her name was removed from leadership boards. Mentorship programs she had launched were quietly shut down. Portia didn't wait for the final gavel to fall. She packed up her office, handed in her badge, and walked out of General Hospital, once her kingdom, as a pariah. Her exit was not marked by a celebration or a warm send-off, but by whispers, avoidance, and a heavy silence. The halls that once echoed with her laughter and leadership now felt like a tomb. Her departure marked the end of an era, an exodus that left not only an emotional void but also a leadership vacuum. The hospital lost more than a doctor. It lost a woman of vision, of compassion, of brilliance, someone who had once believed she could change the system from within. The irony is painful. Portia had tried to protect her career, her family, and her marriage by suppressing the truth. In doing so, she lost all three. Her downfall wasn't orchestrated by Drew alone or even by Curtis's betrayal. It was the cumulative weight of silence, compromise, and fear. In a cruel twist, the very things she fought to preserve became the instruments of her ruin. And now, as she leaves Port Charles behind, she does so not as a hero or even a villain, but as a cautionary tale. Will Portia find redemption? Will her departure be permanent, or is this only the first chapter in a long journey back from ruin? Only time will tell. But what is certain now is that the implosion of Portia's world is a seismic shift in General Hospital's landscape. Her absence will be felt deeply. Not only by Curtis and Trina but by the institution she helped shape. And with Drew still roaming the halls of GH, more powerful and untouchable than ever, the question lingers like smoke. Who will be next? The tragedy of Portia Robinson is not just that she fell, but that she did so while trying to protect everyone around her. And when she needed protection in return, no one stood for her. Not her husband. Not her colleagues. Not even the system she once believed in. And that, perhaps, is the true catastrophe. Trina Robinson is standing at the edge of emotional devastation, staring into an abyss that seems to deepen with every passing hour. Her world, once built on the foundations of family, trust, and budding hope, is collapsing beneath her feet in the most tragic and irreversible of ways. The unraveling of her life is not the result of one isolated betrayal, but rather a chain reaction set off by the convergence of multiple catastrophes. Her mother, Portia Robinson, has decided to leave, not just the family home, but General Hospital. And quite possibly Port Charles itself. This decision, though carefully wrapped in silence and cloaked in stoicism, has shattered something vital in Trina's core. But even before the dust from that emotional explosion could settle, another blow struck, one far more intimate and cruel, the possibility that Kai, the one person she dared to open her heart to amid chaos, has betrayed her. Alone, abandoned, and emotionally raw, Trina is left to confront a nightmare that continues to evolve in ways she never imagined. This isn't just a chapter of sadness, it's the beginning of a profound psychological crisis. Portia's departure from General Hospital was more than just the end of a professional career. It symbolized the collapse of an identity Trina had always admired. To the outside world, Portia may have seemed like a doctor resigning in disgrace, another casualty of a system corrupted by secrets and politics. But to Trina, this was her mother giving up, not just on her job, but on their family, on their history, and perhaps even on herself. The silence that followed Portia's announcement was deafening. There were no heart-to-heart conversations. No attempts at reassurance, no declarations of maternal strength to help Trina navigate this new emotional landscape. Instead, there was only absence, a chilling, hollow absence that spoke volumes. Portia had chosen flight over fight, and Trina was left behind in the emotional wreckage. For Trina, this wasn't just abandonment. It was betrayal. The woman who once told her to face adversity with courage had chosen to disappear when things got difficult. And what made this betrayal sting even more was that it mirrored the same pattern Curtis had followed. Once a father figure she looked to for guidance, Curtis had become inert in the face of crisis. When Portia fell, he didn't try to catch her. He judged. He distanced himself. And when Trina, now more vulnerable than ever, needed him most, Curtis responded not with action, but with paralysis. His failure to step up as a father at this critical moment has left a gaping wound in Trina's sense of security. There is no family. There is no anchor. There is only pain. And into that void stepped Kai, initially a flicker of light in Trina's increasingly dark world. With his charm, intelligence, and sensitivity, Kai seemed like someone who understood her without judgment. He offered her escape from the suffocating drama of her family, a place where she could laugh again, trust again, hope again. But now, whispers are growing louder. Whispers that Kai might not be who he seems. That his connection to Trina may be far from innocent. That he may, in fact, be linked to forces working against her family, perhaps even Drew himself. Small things, once dismissed as quirks, now loom large: secretive phone calls, evasive answers, strange disappearances, and an almost too perfect knowledge of Trina's past. Every red flag Trina had ignored now returns with a vengeance, threatening to unravel the only emotional bond she has left. If Kai is indeed playing her, then Trina is not just heartbroken, she is humiliated. She let her guard down after watching her parents destroy themselves, only to discover that she was a pawn in someone else's cruel game. And the worst part is that she still doesn't have the full picture. She's caught in the fog of suspicion, unable to prove the betrayal but no longer able to trust. It is an emotional purgatory that is eating away at her ability to function. Her schoolwork has suffered. She's begun withdrawing from her friends. Even her art, once a source of healing and expression, now feels tainted. Her canvas remains blank, as if her soul refuses to paint a life she no longer recognizes. Curtis, to his credit, may sense that something is wrong. But his response, as always, is too little and too late. He's caught up in his own grief over Portia's departure, over the implosion of their marriage, and over his own regrets. He wants to fix things, but he's paralyzed by indecision, by guilt, and by the overwhelming realization that he has already lost too much time. He tries to reach out to Trina, but every gesture feels forced, performative, and shallow. Trina sees through it. She sees that her father is drowning in his own shame, and she resents him for waiting until now, when everything is already broken, to care. The window for him to protect her, guide her, and be her refuge has closed. Now, he's just another adult who failed her. What makes this entire situation so tragic is that it didn't have to end this way. Portia could have fought harder, for her daughter, for her truth. Curtis could have stood firmer, for his marriage, for his role as a father. Kai, if he truly cared, could have been honest from the start. But none of them did. And now Trina is left to pick up the pieces of a life she no longer understands. She's young, but the weight she carries is unbearable. Her innocence is gone. Her heart is fractured. Her future is suddenly uncertain. And for the first time in her life, she feels untethered. Trina has always been resilient. She survived trauma, loss, and betrayal before. But this time feels different. This time, the pain is deeper, the stakes higher, and the betrayal more personal. The idea that she might have been manipulated by someone she loved is almost too much to bear. And while Portia and Curtis spiral in their own emotional voids, Trina is silently approaching a dangerous crossroads. She can either rise from this with new strength or she can break in a way that is irreparable. If Curtis does not act, and act fast, he risks losing Trina not just emotionally, but completely. She is slipping through his fingers, retreating into a world where trust does not exist and love is a liability. He must confront the truth about his failures, and more importantly, he must stop treating Trina as collateral damage in the fallout of his broken marriage. She needs a father, not a spectator. And if he does not become that now, he may never get the chance again. As for Portia, her exit from Trina's life is perhaps the most painful betrayal of all. Her silence speaks louder than any justification ever could. She has chosen to disappear rather than face the consequences, and in doing so, she has left her daughter emotionally orphaned. Trina may one day understand. She may one day forgive. But today, she mourns. Not just the loss of a mother or a family, but the loss of faith. And Kai, whatever his true motives, has awakened something dangerous in Trina. If his betrayal is confirmed, he will not just lose her affection. He will become the symbol of everything that broke her. And Trina will not remain the victim forever. She is a Robinson. She is an Ashford. And once her sorrow burns itself out, only fury will remain. Trina is not just facing a personal crisis. She is at the epicenter of an emotional apocalypse. And unless someone reaches her, holds her, and pulls her back, she may never be the same again. Curtis must act. Portia must face her daughter. And Kai, if he truly cares, must choose between deception and redemption. Because if they don't, they will lose Trina forever. And the girl who once believed in love, truth, and family will be replaced by a woman who believes in nothing at all. Portia Robinson may narrowly escape the relentless pursuit of Drew Kane and the legal consequences hanging over her head. But in the shadows of her retreat lies a far more volatile and unpredictable force, her daughter, Trina Robinson. While Portia's exit from General Hospital and the public eye may offer her a temporary reprieve, it simultaneously creates a dangerous vacuum in Trina's life. One that is now filling with secrets too volatile to be buried. As Portia struggles to hide from Drew's calculated attempts to dismantle her legacy, she is increasingly unaware, or perhaps deliberately blind, to the storm building inside her daughter. And that storm, once unleashed, could consume not just Portia's fragile attempts at redemption, but the fragile structure of everything still standing in Port Charles. The true horror is not in what Drew might expose, but in what Trina already knows. There's a growing sense that Trina has been holding something back, a secret that has been eating away at her since Portia's downfall. Whispers circulate through university halls, across art exhibits, and in the quiet spaces where Trina once found refuge. Whatever she's hiding, it's powerful enough to shift alliances, destroy reputations, and collapse what little stability remains in her fractured family. The silence between mother and daughter is no longer simply emotional distance. It's an active void. A black hole filled with unspoken truths and suppressed rage. And the longer it persists, the more dangerous it becomes. Trina has always been smarter than people gave her credit for. Observant, intuitive, and fiercely independent, she's never needed to be told the whole truth to piece together the parts that matter. She saw through Portia's evasions long before the scandal broke. She watched Curtis's silence twist into complicity. And now, she's seeing signs that point to something far more sinister. Drew's vendetta may have deeper roots than anyone realizes. And Trina may have stumbled upon pieces of a game that goes beyond her family. There's speculation, unconfirmed but chilling, that Trina has in her possession a recording, a journal, or even medical documents that not only implicate Drew but could shift the entire power dynamic within General Hospital and the Ashford family alike. But what's more dangerous is the possibility that Trina hasn't shared it with anyone. Not Curtis. Not Portia. Not even Spencer. Because she no longer trusts anyone. This shift in Trina's behavior, withdrawn yet hyper-focused, emotionally distant yet dangerously composed, is alarming to those who know her best. She isn't grieving in the traditional sense. She's transforming. No longer the vulnerable girl caught in the crossfire of adult deception, Trina is slowly becoming a tactician in her own right. And with every passing day, she inches closer to making a move that could upend everything. The question is no longer whether Trina will reveal what she knows, but when. And whether she'll use it for justice, or revenge. Meanwhile, Portia, in her desperate attempt to stay ahead of Drew, fails to recognize the shifting emotional terrain in her own daughter. She believes that escaping public scrutiny and laying low will give her a second chance. But redemption cannot come from distance. It must be earned in confrontation. Portia doesn't yet realize that Drew is no longer her most immediate threat. It's Trina, the daughter she once tried to shield from the truth, who now holds the detonator. And Curtis? He stands in the middle of this imploding family with no clear allegiance. His inaction is becoming a liability. Every moment he remains passive. He risks being seen as a coward by both Portia and Trina. He was once the glue meant to hold them together. But now he's just another crack in a foundation crumbling under the weight of too many secrets. If he does not act soon, if he does not reach out to Trina, demand the truth, and take a stand, he may lose both women for good. As the secrets stack like dynamite. What becomes clearer with each passing moment is that the so-called recovery period following Portia's resignation is anything but calm. It's a powder keg, and Trina is sitting at the center of it. The calculated silence, the rising tension, the unresolved betrayals, these aren't just remnants of a family in crisis. They're signs of a transformation in progress. Trina isn't broken. She's evolving. And when she finally decides to speak, or act, there will be consequences far beyond anything Portia or Curtis imagined. The next great shock isn't Drew's retaliation, or Portia's escape from justice. It's Trina. It's what she knows. It's what she's becoming. And it's what she's preparing to do next. Portia may have thought she was escaping one storm, but in truth, she has unknowingly sown the seeds of another, one far more personal, more explosive, and closer to home. The new wave of change isn't coming from the legal system or Drew's manipulations. It's rising within her own daughter. And when it crests, no one, not Portia, not Curtis, not even Drew, will be safe from its impact.